Hello everyone, today I'm looking at Uncharted 3, Drake's Deception. It's funny, this game pretty much has a reputation or is known for the scene where Drake kind of falls out the back of an airplane and he's holding on to all of these giant crates that he has to crawl up. And it's funny that very classic, iconic scene is actually at the very end of the game. It's very interesting, too, that, so far, maybe I should have mentioned it, that all of these games are pretty much so copying the Indiana Jones kind of formula. You have the iconic, opening one, and then the second one, instead of India, he goes to Tibet, and then in the third one, I think has the most similarities with the third Indiana Jones movie. There's even a scene at the beginning where Drake, is a teenager and he's going around, sneaking around the market, stealing things and doing all sorts of stuff. And Sully, we see young Sully and how they meet and how their relationship engages. And this game actually focuses a lot on Sully as a character, I feel, than the other games. And so similar to showing young Indy in the opening scene of the third movie, I guess on that, so in this adventure, it'll take Drake across different places, but he eventually ends up in Arabia and the Middle East, finding this ancient and lost treasure. I'm also recalled of Nate's iconic look from this game with a sort of scarf around his neck and almost dying of thirst in the desert, which again is kind of near all the end of the game. But all of the sort of initial preamble is all around, rediscovering this lost treasure map and going on this long quest. Again, the gameplay has been marginally improved in this game. You now have a larger variety of weapons, a lot more clambering. Everything just feels smoother, but again, this is still kind of the basic Uncharted 1 formula, just really upgraded and polished a lot. And again, these are, this is a movie game series, so if you played the first two, you're kind of obligated to play this one. It's not bad by any means, neither is A Thief's End, but they are kind of, Uncharted games. I've never really felt the pull that once I beat in one of these games to ever go back and replay it again, simply because the only aspect to do so would be to re-experience a kind of generic-ish story. However, very well told and with great plot, but along with, collectibles for you to, get achievements and stuff like that, which, is pretty marginal reason to replay. Again, I'm not really sure what to say here. I mean, it's just the third Uncharted game. It's, nothing super amazing. 2 was just my favorite because you are, again, finding something really super ancient in this one. It's kind of, again, more modern-ish. I really don't know what to say. It's part of just the Uncharted formula, and then these things are just, like I said, very disposable. Some new things that are nice in this game. I do think that Uncharted 2 did have multiplayer, but I felt it's a lot better. And this one, I really don't think anyone else is playing on the servers for this game anymore. However, I do remember I did briefly play it back in the day, and it was marginally entertaining. It wasn't the greatest multiplayer experience I've ever, had, but it certainly wasn't bad. It was actually, decent to mediocre. And for a majorly single-player game, that's pretty much an achievement in my viewpoint. Again, this is the last game that kind of, has a big focus on gameplay as well as story before, A Thief's End, which I felt kind of took a different aspect to more cutscenes and story than actual gameplay, which is a modern issue, I suppose. There are also more one-on-one fights in this game. We're going to have to counter the enemy and, combat them one-on-one and not just all shootouts all the time. And of course, the new members of Drake's treasure hunting gang, now the dynamics are kind of changing as to, who he can trust and who, where the loyalties lie. And, again, there's a lot of emphasis on Drake and Scully's relationship and how, it might be too dangerous for Scully to even go on this thing. And really brings up some interesting aspects in the relationship, which I thought was really cool. The first game was Drake's game, and the second game was kind of, Elena and, I believe Chloe's game. This really feels like Sully's game. So it's kind of interesting how each different game focuses on a different character relationship to Drake, which again reminds me a lot of the Indiana Jones movies. I mean, this is just Indiana Jones the game. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think I should need to say that, but this is absolutely what it is. If you're looking for Indiana Jones the video game, you're probably not going to get it with whatever Xbox is making. There was some kind of an announcement they're making an Indiana Jones exclusive game for Xbox and Microsoft, and yeah, no, I can't imagine anything now being good or as decent as this game series has been, and I'm really grateful for it. Oh, something I really have to mention. My favorite, in-game level in the entire franchise is probably in this game, and I almost actually forgot about it. But it's the giant mission where you are essentially hopping from ship to ship in this giant kind of shipyard, and just the amount of vertical movement is insane, and the amount of different interesting ways where you can hide and assault people and move around the environment is just so interesting, because it's something that feels almost fantastical, like a video game, as a video game should be. But it feels almost still in that realm of realism. And basically what it is you basically have this ship graveyard where you have a bunch of wrecks, essentially, and Drake is essentially jumping from, ship to ship. There's these huge wrecks where you just have like pieces of scaffolding just sticking out of the water, and you'll be jumping from place to place, like a monkey in the air, and just shooting at guys. And it's really, really interesting. A very interesting environment that I've never really seen done. I mean, God knows we've had sewers and canyons and mines and prisons and all sorts of, predictable things in video games. But the giant ship junkyard is, it's very iconic to this game, more so than the desert component, frankly. It's also very good looking for a late PS3 game, and the one thing that I remember hearing about in a developer diary is how they essentially generated this algorithm of, I wouldn't say AI, but they almost, AI, where they created this whole collection, essentially, of different algorithms that would generate random waves. And so this one guy apparently made, all these different, like a real life ocean, essentially, because it was always totally randomized how the waves would react and crash and actually impact the physics of the game itself. And that's the other thing too about this level, is that as the water moves, so does the environment. So it also throws off your accuracy a little bit. So it's really crazy, all the kinds of different, effects and things that can happen and collide. And it was very, very memorable. So there's one thing that I can definitely say about this game, that even after years after beating it, it still was very cool in this section. And of course, the entire level kind of climaxes with this final moment where the ship you're on, that you're trying to find the treasure, is kind of sinking like the Titanic, and you have to run through all the corridors and essentially, escape. And they have all these set pieces that are always moving and being destroyed, and the water rushing towards you. The water felt so chaotic in this game. It's the one time I felt it was actually real. It did really feel like the water was actually a threat, which is always something I've never felt in games, honestly. It's always like a nice set piece, or it looks nice. But in this one, it was actually pretty impressive how damaging, how much it destroyed the environment around itself. I could just go on about this water level for a long time, and God knows, how awful water levels usually are. But yeah, this one was great. Again, there's a lot more sort of set pieces in this game, a lot more epic things just happening in the environment, a lot more vehicle kind of sections where you're holding on to something and trying not to let go. And so the ability to create a scenario where you turn the mundane or kind of like a normal street into a giant firefight, or like buildings are collapsing, you have to like run alongside it. It feels, like a lot of fun. Very kind of, I wouldn't say realistic, but fun. And in fact, if anything, unrealistic. But yeah, that is Uncharted 3, and that's kind of the end of this kind of trilogy before we move to A Thief's End, which kind of ends it off entirely, which is an interesting game, because it feels familiar, but also very different in certain ways, in that there's a lot more focus on story and cutscenes. But this is the last kind of proper Uncharted game. Not that the last one is improper, but it's just a lot of extra stuff that I feel didn't really super add. So this is the last kind of core game you would get, and honestly, now that it's over, I do kind of miss this series a little bit. I'm really interested to see what Naughty Dog does next. And Drake, even though he's not super iconic, is like a very welcome character and has a lot of charisma, a lot of interesting, aspects to him. And yeah, that kind of wraps up this franchise. I guess I'll see you guys later. Bye.